This is kind of a newer area, certainly not newer in the sense of it's been around or it's been a problem. That's been the case for a long time, but there's not very many organizations, solutions that consider this seriously. And I think those times are behind us. I think you'll start to see what I mean here. So let's take a business case, for example. Let's say that an employee is in charge of hiring decisions and has been for the last 30 years, and they've had little interest in hiring Black females, people of certain ages, and people who seem to be affiliated with certain religions. So before we go any further, that should already make the hair on the back of your neck kind of go up and go, this doesn't feel comfortable, this is awkward, this is weird. But I can assure you, whether it has to do with hiring or not, this bias related type information is really in a lot of data. So let's say, for example, you also go a little bit further and you take some action because you're smart, you know the power of AI, you want to get this going, and you don't want this in your organization anymore. So what you do is you fire that employee that was making those decisions, and you replace it with an AI model that automates the selection process. Sounds great, right? Your problem is solved. But think about this for a minute. You train the AI with all of your company's data from the last 30 years. So you do need to have training data, and you're going to use potentially the training data that you already have. The problem with that is, even if you fire the individual who created that problem for you, it's inherent in the data. And so a lot of organizations get stuck right here. They go, ooh, we would love to do AI. We certainly don't want to go down that path. It's going to take me several years of having the right person in play, making all those changes, us collecting the data before we could ever produce a helpful selection tool. And that's expensive, and the market's moving, right? So there are ways to automatically deal with this, where you can use the old data, you can search for bias, you can mitigate the bias, and there are things that occur when it happens. For example, you might have 85% AUC for a particular model when you're using the bias data. And then there's the potential of when you de-bias the data and you mitigate it and you create a balanced, more neutral approach, you go from 85% AUC as a performance metric to 83%. Remember, higher is better, but 2% down is it's not the end of the world, especially if you have to wait for 2 or 3 years to actually get this going. So again, this is kind of a newer area, but an area that is important. This is in, of course, human resource data. You can imagine loans or credit data. There are other things to consider too. Sometimes it's important when you're even looking at social determinants of health to kind of consider some of these things as protected classes or protected groups of information, and see if your model is biased one way or the other. Present it to the organization, let them know about it, be very transparent about it, and talk about what it would take to mitigate it and what the results would look like. Let them decide what they need to do. For compliance officers or organizations that are heavily regulated, like banking, for example, or fintech, these are really, really important steps to take, and there's a large opportunity to be able to apply this sort of stuff, because many of them, although they know they need to do it, are kind of stuck in this gray area of going, well, I don't know how to do it, and there's not a lot out there to teach me how to do it. So again, one of the things we do that's proven to be extraordinarily helpful.